Steven Seagal's third movie would deliver a hard-edged, R-rated actioner with voodoo, drugs, broken bones, and one splendidly over-the-top villain. In this video, we're going to head right into 1990's Marked for Death, the movie that took Seagal to Chicago and dropped him into suburban drug war mayhem. We're going to take a look at Seagal's career up to the point of this movie, how this film came together, how it held in the genre, what it did at the box office and on home video, as well as talk about its 90s action movie legacy. So let's press play on Marked for Death.
Here we go, Mr. Big Balls. I'm gonna take you to the bank, Senator Trent. To the blood bank.
Go get my pies out of the oven!
My friend, you know, he's a little bit country. I'm a little bit rock and roll. What does that mean?
What's up out there, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, I'm Anthony DeJoya, and this is Movies Never Say Die, your YouTube home for pure 80s and 90s retro movie goodness. The last time in our Seagal series, we covered Hard to Kill, the coma revenge soap opera that turned Steven Seagal into a notable early 90s action star. As I mentioned, in this episode, we're sticking with 1990, but we're going to hop across town to 20th Century Fox, where Seagal would moonlight to make his third movie, Marked for Death. And to me, this was one of the many action movie box covers that just called out to genre fans like free 7-Eleven coffee calls to cops, and personally, it's my favorite Seagal movie.
One thought he was invincible, the other thought he could fly.
So?
They were both wrong.
In this Seagal series, we're keeping it simple, a quick career backdrop from the last film, how this movie came together, what works, what doesn't, its box office imprint, overall legacy, and then we slap a Seagal score on it. So with that said, let's talk about how we got from Mason Storm and his coma beard to DEA burnout John Hatcher. Now, behind the scenes, Seagal had actually wanted Dwight H. Little to direct Hard to Kill, but the studio had vetoed that. So when Warner Brothers gave Seagal the option to do one film with another company during his contract, Seagal cast that chip in quickly, and he went over to 20th Century Fox to make Marked for Death with Little in the director's chair. But Marked for Death was actually not the movie Seagal wanted to do with Fox. He was desperately trying to land the lead role in Predator 2, but there were some issues. According to Predator 2 director Stephen Hopkins, Seagal wanted to completely rewrite his character, turning the character into a CIA psychiatrist who was also skilled in martial arts as well as being a weapons expert.
Artists, huh? Where would we be without them?
So Danny Glover would be cast in that role instead, making it safe to say the studio wasn't really interested in the creative concepts Seagal was coming up with for Predator 2, but he would find his own lane pretty quickly though, because at this time, action movies were pushing $25 to $30 million to make. With known stars, you were looking at roughly $35 to $45 million a movie, since stars like Stallone and Schwarzenegger were commanding $10 million salaries at that time. For Hard to Kill, Seagal earned $500,000. He would double that to $1 million for Marked for Death, which still felt like dollar store prices to producers. Hard to Kill's early box office performance even earned this movie an extra $1 million in the budget, pushing it to a still very affordable $12 million, which when you look at it is about as early 90s Hollywood as it could get, with studio execs at the time who were just printing cash. Hey, your last movie did well? How many more bones do you think you could break with an extra $1 million? That was essentially the motto. Now, this was also around the time when Seagal's ego was really starting to, say, expand, and there was some off-screen drama brewing over the writing credits for this voodoo action romp. Old Stevie Seagal had tried to get full writing credit for this movie, claiming that he rewrote 93% of the script. Oddly specific, but sadly the Writers Guild of America looked at the case evidence presented and said, yeah, no, and ruled in favor of the original writers. So when you think about it, Marked for Death ends up being very on brand. Behind the scenes ego, on-screen mayhem, audiences delighted, because during this era, action stars were pretty much the diva wide receivers of Hollywood.
If you don't write checks, how do you pay these guys?
Straight cash, homie.
Now, while all of this is happening, Hard to Kill lands in theaters on the third day of Marked for Death's shoot. It becomes an instant hit and it has people talking. Reportedly, they're shooting scenes in downtown LA and suddenly limos full of CAA agents and producers pull up, all wanting to see the next big action star in person, and that's really the environment of Marked for Death's production. Seagal going from that Aikido guy with a dojo to we might have our very own Van Damme with a rocking ponytail seemingly overnight. Now, on a personal level, I've always loved this movie as a kid. The violence in Marked for Death just felt gnarlier than what Van Damme was doing at the time. Van Damme was the flashy spin kick showman, while Seagal in this movie felt like he wandered in from just a darker, meaner league.
Go ahead, kill her. I don't know her. I don't care about her.
As a childhood wrestling fan, I always equated Van Damme as the WWF. Colorful, big entrances, dramatic moves, amazing shoot interview charisma. Seagal here and in general felt like the NWA. Gritty, back alley vibes, cringeworthy brutality, and way more likely to just leave someone bleeding on the mat. Both fun in their own ways, but different nonetheless. And even though I'd grow to become much more of a Van Damme fan, Seagal at this point was firing on all cylinders in the action genre. The plot for Marked for Death is simple. It follows Seagal as John Hatcher, a burnt-out DEA agent who walks away from the job and heads back to his hometown, just looking for some peace and family time, and instead he finds a Jamaican drug posse led by Screwface turning his old neighborhood into a war zone. And when his family gets targeted and his niece ends up in the crosshairs, Hatcher snaps right back into Aikido-fueled rage mode and decides to dismantle Screwface's operation mostly by hand and also with the help of his old buddy played by Keith David. And it's funny because, you know, as a kid, the world of this movie just, I don't know, kind of always felt like it existed right next door to Predator 2. The movie just moves and looks and acts like the Predator sequel, from the tone to the mood to the atmosphere. Screwface always kind of felt like the younger cousin of King Willie in Predator 2, so growing up, I was convinced these movies shared an unspoken connection.
You can't see the eyes of the demon until him come calling. He must be beat back 1,000 times.
Maybe I'll try and catch up with you.
I also vividly remember a friend's dad having this on VHS. They were the parents who actually signed up for the Columbia House movie package and paid for it each month. This was one of those movies you knew you shouldn't be watching at that age, which only made every broken limb and every wild black magic chant feel much more forbidden and cooler. This wasn't kid-friendly action. This was, you're gonna see some stuff that would absolutely get cut off a primetime TV edit, and that made it even better. Scene-wise, Marked for Death brings some great early 90s action energy. There's the opening South American bus that sets up Hatcher's burnout, and where Seagal unveils his windmill running formation, you get bar and club showdowns that feel sticky and dangerous. There's a great jewelry store sequence and street fights where Seagal's doing his close quarters Aikido thing that people were just loving at the time, trapping, twisting, and yes, audibly breaking bad guy appendages. And of course, the showdown with Screwface, which I think went so hard it almost felt like two happy endings stapled together, and I still think it's one of the more memorable villain confrontations of Seagal's golden era run, which actually does tie right into this movie's reputation overall. In 1990, the National Coalition on TV Violence ranked Marked for Death as one of the most violent movies of the year, and multiple scenes had to be trimmed down just to squeak by with an R rating, which does explain some of the weird little jump cuts and the awkward edits that you see during the fight, because you can just feel the MPAA hovering over the footage with a sword of their own, just slashing out all the really good stuff. Now, on the financial side, the movie did exactly what Fox was hoping it would do. Marked for Death, as we said, was made for $12 million. It pulled in around $58 million worldwide. It debuted at number 1 with an $11.8 million weekend, and it hung on to that top spot for 3 weeks. sticking around in the box office top 5 for about 5 weeks total. And really, that's a serious statement for just a third film from a relatively new action star to hit the scene, which is why around this time in the very early 90s, you would see so many other studios all taking their shot at the piece of the pie, with names like Lundgren and Speakman and Dudikoff and Dacascos and many others all vying to be a Van Damme or a Seagal for another studio. But then Marked for Death would hit home video, and that's where I think it really settled in. After 3 weeks on the Billboard rental chart, it would climb to the number 2 spot and just park itself there right behind Ghost for about a month in the spring of '91. It would even get a Fox Selections re-release, which basically meant it was a steady earner and a genuine early 90s video store staple that just lived on the top shelf of the action movie section for years. Now, as for the critics, they were not handing this movie its flowers. A lot of the reviews focused solely on the Jamaican stereotypes and the way the posse was portrayed, and that film criticism absolutely followed the movie around. Janet Maslin, in her review at the time, said it lacked visual interest and suspense, and then added that Seagal didn't look as striking this time around because the camera angles made him look jowly. So basically he has double chins, which is a brutal thing to put in print about a guy whose whole job is to look cool while breaking people.
No respect at all.
And when I stack it up against his early run of films, Marked for Death really lands as one of the more purely satisfying Seagal versus Criminal Empire movies. The action feels a little bit meaner, the violence has a little bit more weight to it, and Screwface is easily one of the wildest villains of Seagal's early career. And at the same time, you can still see where the criticisms land. The stereotypes, the bluntness, the sense that subtlety was not invited to the party. It's all there, but still, it's peak 90s action cinema. So for my Seagal score, I'm giving Marked for Death 5 out of 5 Seagals. It's a rock-solid early 90s action flick with a memorable villain, delightfully nasty fights, and that grimy, slightly unhinged energy that just separates it from the more polished studio fare at the time. It may not be pretty, but when you want a VHS era bone crunch, Marked for Death absolutely delivers. Now I want to hear from you guys. Where did Marked for Death first hit you? Was this a forbidden VHS at a friend's house like it was for me? Was it a theater watch, a cable discovery, or something you found way later in the DVD streaming era? Drop your memories down in the comments. I love hearing which aisle of life these movies walk down for you guys. Next up in the Seagal series, we're moving out of his early breakout phase and right into the part of his career where the budgets got bigger, the set pieces got wilder, and the studios really started betting on his name. So if you're into that kind of VHS era action breakdown, you're definitely going to want to be on the lookout for that coming real soon. And as always, if you guys are digging the retro vibes, be sure to check out my Friday Night Rentals series, where I dive deep into all corners of 80s cinema, as well as the VHS Vault series for those 90s home video favorites that just lived at your local rental shelves. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, share it, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting. You guys really do mean the world to me. I appreciate all that you guys do for this channel. Be on the lookout for the next video coming real soon, and until then, movies never say die.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?